Just like in the iPhone in 2009, we're at a big technology cliff. There's a new technology out there that's going to change a lot of the ways that we work.
Hello, welcome to the Better Outcomes Show, where we explore the possibilities of a new healthcare. Each episode, we bring you a conversation with leaders across the healthcare industry, exploring topics ranging from new treatment techniques and interventions to novel service delivery methods and business models. And now your host, Rafi Salazar from Rehab Practice Solutions, a leader in patient engagement and retention strategy. Let's explore the possibilities of a new healthcare.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Better Outcomes Show. I'm your host, Rafi Salazar from Rehab Practice Solutions. And if you are running an innovation company or a healthcare innovation company, an innovative healthcare organization, and you are looking for a way to align your value proposition with the stakeholder you are targeting, from now until the end of September, instead of offering the entire market penetration roadmap like we have done, we are going to offer just the first piece of that, which is the positioning workshop piece. Now, normally we sell this for it's in the $5,500 range. Basically, what you get from there is you get a 90-minute workshop with me and your leadership team. We will hammer out your perceived value proposition, align that with the stakeholder you are targeting, and we will give you basically a pitch deck so that you can go out and sell your innovation, whether it be a device, a technology, platform, whatever, to your desired stakeholder. Until the end of September, we're going to offer that for $2,500 just for the piece of the positioning workshop and the slide deck creation. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can head on over to strategy.rehabilipracticesolutions.com to check out the entire market penetration roadmap. You can book a call there with me and we can talk about the whole market penetration roadmap, or we can talk just about the positioning alignment workshop. Again, that's strategy.rehabilipracticesolutions.com. There's plenty of places there to book a call with me if that's what you want to do. Alrighty, this week we're still talking about technology. We're still talking about the implications of technology in healthcare. However, we're going to look at it from a different angle. So I have always been a proponent and a believer in the fact that the value that healthcare professionals and organizations bring to any patient engagement or encounter is not the technical skills we possess. It's not the treatment we deliver. Of course, that is valuable in and of itself. However, the greatest value we bring to any encounter with a patient or engagement with a patient is the knowledge, the specialized clinical knowledge and expertise that we bring, and the ability to take that knowledge and expertise and apply it to this specific patient and their specific situation. I used to tell students when I was teaching at the university, like, listen, most patients that come into the clinic to see you have already Googled what's going on with them. Most of them have read what is going on and, what the most common treatment options are and yada, yada, yada. Where you come into the table, or the value that you bring, is the fact that besides just doing a Google search and getting the vast throng of information that's available out there, thousands and thousands of pages and research articles, it's not specific. So the value that clinicians bring to the table is the ability to take that vast knowledge, the vast technical knowledge, clinical skills, clinical expertise, and then you apply that to this specific patient's situation, their context, what they have going on in their life in order to create a treatment plan that's going to be most effective for them. That's the real value we bring to the table. However, we also have a responsibility as clinicians to do that in a way that is educational. We are supposed to educate our patients on the options, what's available, what the research shows, what we've noticed through our own clinical experience and expertise, and why we're arriving at the decision or recommending whatever treatment or treatment option we are recommending, or co-creating a treatment plan with this patient, if you would. Part of that involves just simple knowledge translation. There's a great book that I read years ago. David C. Baker wrote it. It's called The Business of Expertise, and I love the analogy. He talks about experts, or people that are in the business of delivering expertise, which is what clinicians are doing essentially, have an obligation at some level to act almost like a crop duster, if you would, and you spread the general expertise and knowledge very widely and very broadly so that everybody can see it, everybody has access to it, everybody's getting value from it. And then when you make the money is when a specific client comes to you and needs your expertise, your guidance, your point of view, if you would, and applied to their specific context or situation. The same is true in my mind with healthcare, that we have a responsibility as healthcare clinicians, as professionals, to do our part to educate, to provide education very widely, very broadly, in a way that moves the needle for people that might not ever be in our clinics. They might not ever step into our healthcare organizations for treatment. However, they're going to benefit from the expertise. And then also what it's going to do is the prospective patients that are on the fence about seeing us will be drawn to us by that clinical expertise. Well, one of the ways you can do that, one of the easiest ways, is to create content. Now, I don't know about you, most of the clients that I've worked with when I was working exclusively with healthcare organizations and private practices, the problem that they ran into with trying to do this, trying to be knowledge translators or creating content as a way of both educating the public but then also driving new business, was the fact that they didn't have time. Like, what are they going to do? Spend 3 hours typing an article or seeing 3 patients, or how are they going to shoot all these videos and get them posted on all these platforms and still have time for patient care? Well, technology is allowing us to do that in a way that has, quite frankly, never been possible before. And I'm talking specifically about using something like ChatGPT or some tech-based platform that can take a simple answer or a simple piece of content that you create and then repurpose it multiple times. I am a big, big fan of this. I do normally 1 day a week, I will sit down and I will knock out, an hour's worth of content creation, maybe in short snippets of 5 to 10 minute videos, 2-minute videos, whatever. And then I will use a tool like Insight Voice, which is what we have on the show today, to create multiple repurposes of that same content, whether it be articles or blog posts or LinkedIn posts or videos, whatever the case may be. So this week, I'm excited to share this conversation with you. Our guest is Matthew Curtis. He is the founder of Insight Voice, and he'll give you, in the beginning, all of his background. He's been through Y Combinator and done a lot of startups. Insight Voice is specifically a platform or a software that allows experts to share their expertise. So unlike what you see out there every day, which is some kind of chat GPT created answer or quote unquote insight or expertise that's created, the Insight Voice doesn't do that. Insight Voice relies on you, the clinical expert in this case, providing a thoughtful and insightful answer or piece of content, and then uses that to create multiple iterations of it in various formats. So you're not just manifesting this pseudo expertise out of thin air and hoping that ChatGPT got it right for you. This is something that actually takes your brain, your expertise, and then helps you magnify it. So this is full disclosure here. I use this every day in my practice, both on the clinical practice that we run, but then also half the stuff that I've put out now at Rehab Practice Solutions has been filtered through Insight Voice. I just find it a very useful tool. So I'm excited to have Matt on the show to talk with you about it. And if you stick around till the end, I will give you, and in the show notes, I'll provide a link where you can get Insight Voice for you as well if you want to start experimenting with it. So without further ado, here's Matthew Curtis talking about knowledge translation using artificial intelligence and technology. Well, hey, Matt, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Rafi, thanks so much. I'm doing fantastic.
Well, I'm looking forward to diving into the whole topic of insight generation and content creation to drive business. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about yourself, your professional background, and what brought you to doing what you're doing at Insight Voice.
Yeah, so my professional background has been a bit of meandering path. I studied philosophy in college. And then I went on to I worked in education for a little bit, but then I eventually realized what was going on in the tech scene, made my way out to Silicon Valley. I've worked at some of the bigger tech firms, but then I ultimately got into Y Combinator because I was just obsessed with starting things. So I started companies. I did a scrap metal company, which was a lot of fun. I've done some
restaurant
healthcare
too, right?
I had a bakery. I've done I did a healthcare startup. I worked at a big healthcare startup that went to a Series C venture. That was my most latest stint. And yeah, just I love the journey of a company. I love starting it. I love jumping in and learning a new industry. And so, when I started this in November, and what's really cool today is that just like in the iPhone in 2009, we're at a big technology cliff. There's a new technology out there that's going to change a lot of the ways that we work. Not everything, the basics are still the same. Provide great customer service, provide great insights to your customers, and those businesses will win. But the pathways for that are opened up by AI, and I saw that and I was like, oh, we're going to do this. We're gonna figure out a way to help businesses grow with this new tool.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the tool, and then we'll dive into the just whole content creation and why you might want to do it in the first place.
Yeah, so the tool is really simple, and what it does is it works really, really well for experts who are sharing their expertise in order to grow businesses. So think anyone who had a buying decision is involved in making the choice of I trust this person, lawyers, doctors, physicians. And what it does is it gives you the questions that your customers are asking. I have a friend who says the hardest thing to remember as an expert is what it's like at the beginning, what it's like for a beginner. And so your customers are asking you questions, but they're asking them indirectly. They're asking through Google, they're asking through now ChatGPT. We give you those questions that your customers are actually asking. You come on there and you just answer them quickly. You shoot a 1 to 2 minute video, just answering a very simple question that your customers would have, and then we help you distribute it. So we take that insight that you've given on the video, and we transcribe it and we put it into a blog, an FAQ, or a social post, whichever channel you're really trying to grow with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the idea of just generating content in general, there's a lot of push behind it. Okay, like SEO, you want your website expanding, yada, yada, yada. But unless it's focused, right, the content is just taking up space if it's not valuable. And that's one of the things, like having the prompt, especially the way y'all do it in Inside Voice, is really valuable. It gives somebody the ability to share little snippets of their expertise that show, like, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Without all the thinking that's involved in, like, okay, how would somebody that's looking to buy services from me actually phrase this question, right?
Correct. And when you talk to like even content marketing specialists, they spend 30% of their time thinking about what questions should be asked. So being able to automate that now with AI is really important. But then even like what channels you should focus on. Like it costs $400 to write a blog before AI. And that's because someone who's writing a blog for you has to go do research. They have to somehow get your expertise, and it really doesn't work when you hand it off to someone else. But if you're writing it yourself, that's an 8-10 hour exercise, and most small business owners don't have that kind of time.
Yeah. All right. So then, just very briefly, I guess let's start with your own use of it, because you use your own product.
Yeah.
How has it been just kind of very useful to use something like this as kind of generating this content for you? Because I'm assuming you're not just using LinkedIn, you're using various channels to grow the business. Like, how's that turning into an actual ROI for time spent on content creation versus, business sales and all that down the line?
Yeah. So for anyone who's been in an early startup, those first customers are really hard to get. And they're just like exceptionally difficult to get. And like trying to narrow the focus is hard. I've been using this product. I looked at this earlier today for just over 6 months. And we've had over 1,500 signups just from LinkedIn alone on our product. And my audience was not very big at the beginning. I went from just over 1,000 connections on LinkedIn to now I have almost 5,000, and we're doing somewhere between 10 and 15,000 impressions a month, which is like I didn't post on LinkedIn before. The other big channel that we're really growing from is on our blog that we also invest in. And blogs take a little bit longer to ramp up, but we're getting over 1,000 like sort of impressions a day, and those are turning into like I think it's like 15 clicks a day. So that's still growing for us, and we're still trying to massage that. But from an early company, that's really huge. So those are the two ones that we're mostly investing through our product, as well as like our FAQ and everything that it's really helped us write.
Yeah. So then let's talk about, you mentioned it at the beginning. Something like this is good for, I'm thinking like healthcare technology companies who are listeners of this podcast, or healthcare providers or provider organizations, people that have expertise that they need to share in order to kind of move the buying cycle along. So kind of in your experience with this, like what is that first question, I guess, that maybe a prospect might be asking? Because I'm assuming a lot of times they're, you mentioned they're kind of asking indirectly, they don't really know, but that bottom question is like, do I trust this person, or does this person have the expertise? So like, how important is that? How quickly do you want to address that in the buying cycle? How does doing something like maybe distributing content among various, platforms help you with all of that?
Yeah. So just the basic experience when I get on a sales call, and we're still doing a lot of sales calls as an early stage company, is that people know my story, they know what we're focused on, and they know a lot about our product. So they're pre-qualifying in a lot of the process. And so when I get on them, they'll tell stuff to me about myself. They'll say, "Oh, how's this going? I saw this insight the other day." And I've been on cold calls before this. I've started other companies where I would, you'd spend all this time and energy booking an appointment with somebody. You'd get on there and they're cold to you, and you're cold to them. So you've got to warm them up on that call. It's just like a tremendous difference for them to be walking into you, having a question for you often of like, "Hey, how do I do this? How do I explore this? How do I grow my business this way?" Rather than, you trying to pitch them cold. And that's just radically different. And that's what we're seeing for our customers as well, is that the sales cycle that they already have, right? So you have to know your sales funnel. It's not a magical tool that'll like radically transform your sales funnel, but it'll increase the speed at which they move through the sales funnel. And so all of our experts are seeing, somewhere between a third and a half drop in the speed of their sales cycle, just because they can talk to them, they can understand, and they have a relationship with you before they have a relationship with you, and that's just really powerful.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you've read it. I read a book by David C. Baker a while back, and he talks about like experts. The way they create content is like, if you think about the expertise you have, you spray it like very general, the high level insights that you have that are still valuable. You like spray those like a crop duster over a whole field, and maybe it's like one or two of those heads of corn or something like that are calling you up trying to go a little deeper, but that's when the money is made. And especially in the insight or the knowledge economy, which is where we're at basically, you don't get to those calls unless the person or the prospect has already kind of done some digging on you and thinks this person's worth talking to about, whatever the expertise is, right?
And you got to realize your buyers aren't going to make the decision when you want them to. They're going to make the decision when they have a need. So if you can just be the first thought they have once they have the need, like for us, we want to be the first thought when someone wants to start creating content, we want them to think about us. And that's really what our content strategy is about. And then they can come to our website and they can learn more, and they can see, we're putting up other examples of folks using the product, and we're telling the story there. But the first part of a content marketing strategy is giving them enough free information, enough of our expertise out, so that when they realize they have that problem, they come to us. We don't want to create a problem for users when they don't really have that. And that's why the way we recommend using it for our clients is that, hey, just go out and share your expertise on a daily basis. Get on there. Rafi, I don't know, your schedule seems to be like you bulk out time to answer questions using our product. Some other people, they just say, hey, 5 minutes a day, I'm getting on there and I'm just going to answer some questions. But just give a little bit to your audience. Some people do this on a newsletter if they have a really a newsletter that's up and running. Others are experimenting with social media or writing blogs. So it's really a wide group.
Yeah, I think one of the keys, like you say a lot, is like the biggest mistake people make in content creation is that they don't start.
Yeah, because and it's hard, right? Because it's like just like your buyers need every business needs to grow, right? That's just the reality. And so we all need quick wins. And so there's marketing channels that have really quick wins. And then there's marketing channels like content marketing, where you're planting seeds to grow your business long term. And you've got to invest in both, right? So if you really need fast growth, like content marketing, unless you're the rare business, it's not going to be the business that supercharges it. but it's going to be the one that grows you 10, 20, 30% over a year or 2 years because you're just engaging in these daily habits.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned it, but I use the product. I like it a lot. I mean, I found like for me, like it's really nice to be able to, I'll block out like maybe a Monday or something like that, front end of the month, answer like 10, 15 questions, and then boom, like my content's done for the month. And then I just spend time, sending it off to whoever's got to edit it or get it, prepped and ready to roll and post it on the places. But there's something too about like the convenience of being able to just pop in. Oh, I got 5 minutes at lunch. What can I answer here and what can I get posted? So there's a lot of flexibility in the way that it's done as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that like we're trying to figure out the cadence of how we allow you to set your own notifications so that you can set your schedule and you can do all of that. That's going to be like our most important thing, because that's what everyone does with content creation. They commit to a plan, and then just like everything else, like so many people fall down on the plan, just like a workout plan or anything like that. And so we're going to try to make it so that it's just easier and easier for you to follow through with your own plan.
Yeah. So I guess that's like you're kind of leading us there. So these people, most people, we all know that we need to run some sort of content creation for the long-term growth of our business. Whether we're in healthcare as providers or technology startups, we need like a baseline of content that kind of generates that know, like, and trust before the prospects come to us. What are the biggest barriers you see to people actually completing those? Because now you've got 1,500 users on there, and I'm assuming they're use this product a lot. Some maybe started using it a lot and then have tailed off. Like, have you noticed any trends? And like, what are the big like friction points or barriers that might keep somebody from just consistently creating content?
The biggest one is fear, and I think that many of us, like, we see these big creators who have just tremendous profiles. They'll have 100,000, 200,000 followers, and we think that our content, not only our content can't reach their level, we can't write the hook as well as they can. We don't know how to index for SEO, any of that kind of stuff. We try to handle that from a technical perspective for you guys, but a lot of people just don't believe they have the insights. And when we actually talk to these, the people who are using us, like, business owners have like tremendous and unique insights. And what we see in the world today is that a lot of the people who are at the top, who get the most impressions of that, don't actually know that much about actually running a business. They don't actually have the expertise. What they have the expertise in is getting famous and sharing and so I think there's tools like ours. We're really, really, really focused on, we don't want to create expertise for you. There's a lot of ChatGPT wrappers that will just write content for you and will create knowledge that you don't actually have. We fundamentally believe that you have unique insights for your customers that your customers need to hear, and that you should match with them. Accountants should be working with more people because they're talking about different accounting things. Doctors should have, physical therapists like yourself should have, should be able to meet your neighbors where they are, because they're coming to you asking you questions. Because when they get their newsletter, they see, oh, you're talking about this stretch, or you're talking about that stretch, or you're talking about, this methodology or thought plan. So you have the expertise. You just need to see the questions that you can jump on there and just answer them right away. And we're not quite there yet. I would say we're like 95% of the way there, of making it so that content comes out super crisp every time and is really ready to shine. But you have to understand that you don't need to be fearful. You do this business every day. You do the hard work. You meet with your clients. You deliver value for them. People want to hear about that. People are interested in what you have to say, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that reminds me. The first time I was teaching at graduate school, I was kind of I was nervous about it. One of the professors there, who was my professor in college, was like, "Listen, you just have to remember this. You know more than they do already." And I think a lot of times experts in a field, like, they know, maybe it's the fact that they know that there are people out there that are so much more maybe smart, experienced, well-versed, whatever, in this topic area. They're like, well, what can I bring to the table?
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, to a prospect that knows very little about your area of expertise, you can bring a whole lot, right?
Yeah. And with video, you can bring a whole lot of empathy, right? Like, you can say, we have auto mechanics using our platform. They say, hey, I understand what it's like when you're stuck in the mud. I understand what it's like when your carburetor isn't working, right? And so they bring that, like, They bring that unique empathy and they bring that knowledge at the same time.
Yeah. Well, and how much of that too, like, is in a world of, like, 50 accountants in a city, or a lot of doctors in a city, or a lot of tech companies, like, how much of the buying decision in those areas is not personality based, but maybe even relationship based, like that, like an
Yeah.
accountant knows the same thing regardless of whether you go to accountant A or accountant B, but a lot of times it's just the way you click, or the relationship, or whatever.
Yeah. And if we look at the world today, it is more and more personality based
Yeah.
decisions that we're making for our buying decisions. We want to know these people. We want them to be, I'm not sure if we want them to be our friends, but we want to be able to connect with them on a real level, other than the thing that which we need to do. When I go meet with my accountant, like, when I guess go back, when I chose my accountant, I went and checked out 5 or 6 different people, because I wanted to make sure that they understood, about how to do tax. But I also want to understand, do you know what it's like tax for a startup? Do you know what it's like to be a founder? Do you know some of the things we typically miss and some of the things we typically get right? And how do you help me with that? Um, if they had been creating content, I could have consumed that and made that decision a lot easier. And those who do, in these knowledge fields, who are creating content and who are out there just sharing a little bit of information, which is a little bit of time and effort, their businesses are growing. That's just the reality. It's not something you should bet. It's not going to get you short-term growth. That's unlikely, but it will bring you long-term growth.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like, I started doing this kind of work in like 2017, and it wasn't until like 2020, 2021 where it was like the inbound leads were just coming in, and it was because
Yeah.
of 4 years of doing content creation and lead generation, all of that kind of stuff beforehand, laying the groundwork. And then I had people that were like, "Oh, I've been, following the podcast for 2 years, 3 years. I've been listening to listening to that, watching the newsletters or the videos, whatever it is." But it's been built up over a period of time. Now, part of that is it's consulting, and that kind of it's a longer sales cycle in general. But the same principle holds true for accounting or healthcare, or whatever. Like, there's going to be a lag time in the time that somebody notices you to the time they actually make a buying decision.
Yep. And that's just like, and when I'm putting on my marketing hat, it's hard for me to understand that, because I'm ready to find people right when they're ready to buy. I'm ready to sell them right away. When I think about how I actually buy, I consume a lot of information before I reach a buying decision on any product, any software product, but also, unless it's an emergency with a healthcare professional. Like, I want to make sure they have the expertise. I want to make sure that their philosophy is aligned with mine, and then we'll go and have that conversation. But that takes time, that takes effort, and you'll see it trickle through eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they said, one of the big statistics that always gets thrown out is like, oh, only 3% of the people that land on your content are ready to make a buy now decision now. So it's like, it makes sense to have a body of content that people can, or insights that are kind of banked, that people can consume and kind of get to know you while they're moving through those stages of, even if it's behavioral change, like they're in pre-contemplation now and they haven't made the decision to move into action, or whatever.
Yeah, and one of the most important ones, which many of your listeners probably have, is previous buyers, right? So those are your most likely people who would like to hear something from you. They'd like to hear an insight you've had about, especially if you're doing treatment practices, like, hey, just an update on this type of medical practice that we're hearing about. Here's this piece of information. Just to keep you type in mind. You provided good service to them. They don't typically have a buyer's need from you right now, but they will in the future. And just a quick newsletter that sends that out, they can share your insight. That can be really powerful.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest, especially in healthcare, one of the biggest underutilized assets that most healthcare practices have is their past patient list.
Yeah,
they never use it. Well, for the most part.
And it's interesting, those sectors of the economy that don't do the sort of drip campaigns that all the other sectors. Obviously, there's privacy and all that stuff that we're about in healthcare, but just being able to say, hey, we're here, we love being here, we love serving our patients, is an important message to continue to convey in every industry.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Matt, thanks so much for taking the time. If there's like one or two main takeaways about content creation, insight generation that you'd want a listener to walk away with from the episode, what would they be?
Yeah, just trust your own expertise. Your expertise is in what your customers need, and so make sure to focus on what your customers need, And remember what it's like to be beginning. Remember it's like to not know anything about your field and come to answer those questions that your customers have. You can use the tools like ours, insightvoice.ai. We really try to set it up really easy for you to come on and see from the perspective of a novice. But then just get out there and trust yourself and your expertise. I would say that's the most important thing. And it's going to take some time to develop your voice. Rafi, you can attest to this.
Yeah.
It took like a couple of years to really figure out, like, how do I say things? How do I communicate things? How do I find the right audience? That's going to be true for anyone who's starting this, but it happens pretty quickly. And if you use tools that sort of frame the topics of conversation for you, it'll happen a lot faster.
Awesome. Cool deal. Well, Matt, where can people find out more about you, connect with you on LinkedIn, the website for Insight Voice, all of that, all the places?
Yeah, so I'm most active on LinkedIn. So find me at Matthew Curtis. It'll have an Insight Voice logo attached to it. But then come to insightvoice.ai and reach out to me at Matthew@insightvoice.ai. I'd be happy to walk anyone through sort of not just our product, but sort of like how they can think about growing their business. That's a great conversation. We've had a lot of people and would love to continue those.
Cool deal. Awesome. Well, Matt, thanks so much. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you, Rafi.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Matthew Curtis, talking about just the possibilities of using technology to magnify your reach when it comes to sharing your expertise. I think one of the things that Matt mentioned that I didn't mention in the intro, but I think is very important, obviously, the patient engagement guy here wrote a book, Better Outcomes, Guide to Humanizing Healthcare. A big piece of that is patient engagement. Was that part of a successful client relationship and part of successfully attracting, in this case, patients to your clinic or to your organization, is being able to build that know, like, and trust. You know, the part of the buying decision, at least for most of us in healthcare, part of that buying decision is, do I know this practitioner? Do I trust their view, or do I believe in their viewpoint or the way they approach healthcare? I think there's a lot of, I would see this a lot in when I was a professor, students thinking this, and even coming through the clinic and seeing clinicians in the clinic and working with other organizations, this idea that, okay, I've got a certificate or I've got a certification, I'm a licensed clinician, and that's enough. And the reality is that's the baseline. That's the entry level. That's general competency. You need to be competent as a clinician, but everybody is. What is going to drive more patients to your business or to your organization is going to be the fact that you have a unique maybe point of view or some way of building real trust and relationship with your patients. Now that relationship, we talk about in the book, the patient relationship cycle, that happens oftentimes now that the world is Googleized, happens before the patient even steps foot in the clinic, oftentimes before they even call your organization. They've done the digging, they've looked on reviews, excuse me, they've looked online at reviews, they've checked out your website, they've probably read or seen or listened to some content that you've created or that is on your website, and they've already started thinking, okay, I kind of get where Rafi's coming from. I see that this is how he approaches chronic pain, for example, which is where I spent a lot of my clinical time. And I believe that he's got, not only the skills and the competency, but I feel like I could trust him when I come into the clinic, that he's not going to, whatever it is, he'll provide individualized care, it'll be whatever. And that piece is very, very beneficial in getting a patient bought in before they haven't even come into your clinic, but it can take a while. It can take a while because it takes a while to create that kind of content, and you've got to be intentional about the content we create. We can talk about that later, about like how you structure content in order to create some of that trust beforehand, but that's neither here nor there. The limiting factor that I mentioned earlier is that many clinicians find themselves in the clinic all day and they don't have time to devote to content creation, not to mention other ways that you can monetize that content down the line, which again, something else we can talk about. But the fact that healthcare is still very much a human relationship, a human experience. Anything that you can do as a clinician or an organization to set yourself apart from your competitors in a way that builds that know, like, and trust beforehand is going to make your sales cycle shorter. It's going to make it easier to book patients that are going to actually show up to their appointments, that are going to be engaged from the get-go, that are going to have elevated expectations. Now, you need to deliver on those expectations later, which is what we mentioned in the book as well. But the big piece is getting them in the door, right? Getting them in the door and having them expect something different and then being able to deliver it on that expectation. Part of that is creating that content ahead of time, and in a way that's almost evergreen, that anybody can look and see and view and kind of experience your expertise, even if it's not specific to their situation, in a way that helps get them over that hurdle of, I don't know this person, this is just some random clinician on, name the platform, right? And the nice thing about a tool like Insight Voice is that it magnifies your ability to do just that. So the way it works is basically it's a question, you answer the question on video or audio, and then it creates transcripts and blog posts and articles and LinkedIn posts based off of the words that you said, which again is very different from just typing a prompt into ChatGPT. What's the best way to manage back pain or something like that? No, this is your own words, your own expertise, just being repurposed and reformatted into various modes that you can put into different platforms. And that's really what we're talking about. A lot of reach, doing one piece of work one time, being able to use it 50 times. I'm all about that. So anyways, if you want to check out Insight Voice, go to the website or the show notes at betteroutcomes.show or rehabuppracticesolutions.com and click on the link for this episode for podcast. And we'll have a link in the show notes that you can bounce on over to there and check them out. If you like the show, head on over to iTunes, leave us a rating and review. Helps people find the show. And I think that's it for this week. So until the next time, folks, be safe, be healthy. I will talk to you then.
Thanks for listening to the Better Outcomes Show, where we explore the possibilities of a new healthcare. Our hope is that you walk away from each episode informed, equipped, and empowered to push the boundaries in your own practice or business. We want to give you the tools to help you build strong, long-lasting relationships with your patients and clients, helping meet their goals, improve their health, and achieve better outcomes. Learn more at www.rehabuppracticesolutions.com. We'll catch you on the next episode.